Hey everyone, this is the second video in the series of 10 showing my experiences and learning what I did to manufacture a product. And this is how to learn things for free. There's so many ways to learn things for free from the government, believe it or not, SCORE, manufacturers themselves, some lawyers, and retailers. So let's dig in here. So basically, score.org, I'll go into a little bit more detail about that. It's amazing. It's the best. It's just, I forget what it stands for. It's retired executives that will help you be your mentor for free. Use the telephone, make phone calls. There's probably a lot of free seminars in your area. I'm fortunate, I live in the Orlando, Florida area, so I have seminars and trade shows coming in and out, but lots of areas have these. Manufacturers will teach you how to make your own stuff. You don't have to have the whole idea in your head, and it will help you iterate your idea. I don't recommend signing up for anything like Inventor Help. I'll get into that. You probably don't need a patent or trademark. You might not even be able to get one. I'll do it a little bit more detail of that. Lots of free resources for people in the United States. And keep in mind, this is not legal advice, okay? Just my personal experience. So, here we go. Again, two very important books that everybody should read before you start this. This one that I recommended before, and this one, E-Myth Revisited. I went into a little bit more detail in the first video, but I always want to reinforce these two books. If you don't have the patience to read these two books, you don't have the patience to develop a product. Okay, so this is number 2 in my series of 10. So how to learn things. The first one was to try to be realistic about what you're likely to get from this adventure of building your own product. This one's how to learn things for free. Next, I'm going to go into how the retail ecosystem works from the perspective of a small inventor, and talking about the importance of shipping and planning your shipping and where things are going to be built, how to price your product and how to design a product to hit a particular price point and why you'd want to do that. Some things about advertising and conversions. I'm not an expert on that, but I could tell you the ways I wasted a lot of money, and you could maybe avoid that. How to learn from your environment, how to handle customer relationships, and how to sell in various places. And then finally, prototyping and manufacturing. This is where a lot of people, including myself, think you needed to start. Number 10, not so much. You need to start with number 1. So anyway, there are a lot of crooks. There's a whole industry of people that kind of preys on Inventor. The one I can recall is called Invent Help, but they might charge you thousands of dollars to help with your invention, and you probably don't need that. And they're just going to charge you to fill out forms that you should learn how to fill out on your own. The process of filling out the form, you'll learn something. And by learning things yourself, you won't be blindsided, and you're less likely to be ripped off. You'll still get ripped off. I did too. But you'll learn by getting ripped off, and you won't get ripped off over and over again. And many of these companies might have you do this. If you're researching anything to do with the government, taxes, regulations, or anything like that, go to their website. Don't go to a blog. I mean, you can search the internet and read something on a blog, but when you really want to go to the truth, go to the site you want, because the rules change all the time. Blogs are often wrong, and it's the same for ChatGPT at this point in time, in 2024. Kind of goes without saying. I didn't have a great place to put this. You probably want to have an LLC, Limited Liability Corporation, at least in the United States. I already had one in place when I started doing this for any kind of side work that I was doing. It just makes things smooth. Today, I don't think you need one. I don't think you need one you don't need one to sell on eBay. I don't think you even need one to sell on Amazon. I already had one, so I was just like, when it says put your LLC here, I did. But they don't cost that much. You don't need to pay anybody to do this. I'm kind of excited about this now because there's ads running that I see where somebody will set this up for you for $200. But what they mean is they're just going to fill out a form for you and then you also have to pay the state tax. So just learn how to fill out the form yourself. You'll probably get a federal tax ID, which they're happy to give to you for free. You just fill out a form. It gives you to you right, the IRS website. It gives it to you right away. The idea behind a limited liability company is that it protects you from liability. So if you're doing anything, if you're making a child's toy or something like that, if you're making a child's toy, you probably do want legal advice beyond what I'm giving you. But just remember, this is not legal advice. But anyway, the limited liability corporation is supposed to do that. It's just handy. You're better off having one than not having one, like having a jack in your car when you have a flat tire. You can change it. LLCs can be gigantic. Google is a LLC, so it can be any size company. And you can call your state and ask questions. I believe you can start an LLC in a state where you don't live. A lot of people have Delaware corporations. I just happen to do it in Florida where I lived, and it made sense for me. I pay about $136 a year for mine. They just want a check and an address. Your pulse is optional, if your check clears. You have to fill out some forms, a management outline, some stuff like that. It's not a big deal. So in order to learn things, you really should call people on the phone. It seems like it's old-fashioned, and a lot of people don't like it, but call with you. Make sure you have time to do this, and respect other people's times as well. In the government, it's hard to get people to tell you, but you might find someone's supposed to help you. And if you're supposed to do something with your state, you might have a local office in a city. And like I found this with other issues, like my particular city, the people that were doing it were kind of jerks. So I called the next county, and they had the same office, and that guy was super nice. So just call around, be open-minded, maybe have a list of a couple of questions, listen carefully, practice your listening skills. This is important to be able to listen. And also try to end the phone conversation with asking who you should talk to next. Like, I have a question about, starting a manufacturing center in my town. Talk. Who should I talk to next? And then talk to them. And then you can say, Sally told me to call you. So it's good. Take notes. And there's millions of people to call to ask questions. So you don't have to get all your answers from one person. You'll find somebody receptive. You'll find somebody who's in a good mood. Take advantage of it. You want to talk to lower level people first. The receptionist, the first line people, because they typically interact with people more than the higher ups. And then by the time you talk to a higher up, if that ever becomes necessary, you'll have a lot of information. And you can call people outside your geographical area. So for example, say you wanted to start this is a little bit outside. Say you want to start a franchise, an ice cream shop, and you live in Florida. So you could call an ice cream shop owner in Ohio and say, hey, I live in Florida, so I'm not competing with you. And then you can ask them, it's like, hey, where do you get your ice cream? How much does it cost? Whatever. So you can go outside of your geographical area on the phone, now that it doesn't cost anything to talk long distance. And, it just opens up opens up your world to more people. And salespeople will answer a lot of questions, because that's kind of their job, is to answer questions. Other people that are actually, not the salespeople aren't busy, but part of sales is answering questions. Other people you might not have that luck, but salespeople you can learn a lot from. Attending seminars. There's, go into a little bit more detail. In your area, in the United States anyway, there's likely to be a lot of seminar opportunities. So they're put on, you can learn about sales tax, you can learn about forming an LLC. I went to a lot of these, and sometimes they're put on by a university, sometimes they're put on by the government. Some areas have business incubators, and also trade shows that you can attend. Here in Orlando, it's like one of trade show central, but if you live in certainly Las Vegas or New York or within driving distance of these, you may even find it useful to travel. and go to one. Usually depending on the nature of it, to attend one of these and just walk the floor is sometimes even free, and it's maybe 20 but cheap to go. Not always, but you pick one that is cheap, and if you can walk on a trade show floor where there's people are having booths, you can ask hundreds of questions. So yeah, I went over this already with the governments. There's many places that have business incubators. I know that I'm just aware of places in like North Carolina and Ohio, and a lot of the government, any place that's maybe been displaced at all, there's government offices to help people get started. Use them, go there, ask questions, find out what they are for you, and also local chambers of commerce, even down to your tiny town. So you may go, I went to one for a while, and I was a little bit out of place because it was mostly the pool cleaning person and the bug person, and really local services, and I was trying to manufacture something to sell all over the place. But they're also valuable resource. You go, spend a little time, ask some questions, meet some people. Maybe you'll find somebody who does advertising, and you can work with them. Also, the same thing for universities. Something interesting for universities is you can, if you want to build something and you want to build it out of metal, but you don't know very much about metal, but you figure that your widget should be made out of metal, call a university and ask to talk to their material science professor. And depending on their personality, they might be happy to tell you all about what they know about. That's what you can find. If you find the right person there and ask them about their area of expertise, especially if it's a guy, they will tell you everything you want to know. Also, maybe even alumni groups. If you went to college yourself, you can go back and maybe you can get mentored by other people that graduated from your same university, so you're already kind of in the club. So at trade show, I learned a ton from going to trade shows, absolute ton. It is, depending on the nature of it, it's like one big sales pitch, so you have to kind of be prepared for that. Usually cheap to attend, like I said. And if you have any kind of prototype or sketches or whatever, you can bring it. And one that I went to recently where people were talking about CNC machines and machining and stuff like that. And I just asked, and I found that, especially in that industry, because maybe somebody that had equipment that they invested in 15 years ago didn't have a level of precision that somebody that has this year's equipment does. I mean, you can ask, you can compare the differences, and maybe your part might need super high tolerances, or maybe it doesn't. So anyway, and also you call the manufacturers, as I said before, and say, hey, that's what I did. So my product is made out of rubber. So my product's made out of rubber, and but I didn't know how to do any of this. So I called a lot of people and I said, hey, I want to make something out of rubber, and what is it? Like, how do I do that? And it's like, well, there's extruding where it's like a Play-Doh and it comes out and you chop it. I was like, oh, maybe I could make mine like that. And then there's like, oh, then there's a mold, and then there's a mold, and then there's a family. So you make all these, so you learn the terms of the industry by asking questions. And as long as you're not, as long as you're not wasting too many people's times, you'll learn a little bit. Like I learned going to listen, like how this package is sealed. There's a particular machine that does that. I didn't know. Now I do. So lawyers, to get free legal advice or close to free, most states have what's called a bar association. And you can get a lawyer for $35, in Florida at least, $35 for a half-hour consultation. It is kind of a sales pitch for the lawyer, and you might even be able to get other states to do it. So if you have a legal question and you're pretty precise with what you have, you can talk to a lawyer for half an hour at a very reduced rate. Now, of course, they're going to try to spend most of that half hour selling you their services. If they do, you can move on, because if someone really knows what they're talking about, they'll give you a ton of information for half an hour, and then if you need to continue, you probably go back to them. if someone's trying to hide something or hold back their knowledge in a half-hour conversation, you don't need to, they don't have much to offer. Now SCORE, this is amazing. This organization is great. So what it stands for is a Service Corps of Retired Executives. And they have a website. Now that everything's online, you know, when I first started, I had to go like in person, so it was harder. But now everything's organized online. You can do Zoom calls, and you have a lot of people that are retired and they want to give back. That's the whole reason they're in here. So you can say, hey, I have a question about logistics or warehousing or advertising. And there's hundreds of people that volunteer. You can look at their resume. You can contact them by whatever means you want, email, phone call, and they're happy to help you. It's like their mission. A lot of them are retired. Some are still active. But this is a fantastic resources, and it's essentially unlimited because you can just talk to a bunch of different people who've already been there. It's fantastic. So do this. Do this. As far as patents go, I tried this. I did my own patent. You can search on google.com, patents.google.com, and the links are in the description, and the patent office, which of course is where I recommend going. You probably don't need a patent. Again, not legal advice, but you probably don't need one because most widgets are not even patentable. Like my thing here is different than others because it's very large, but it's just being a different size doesn't make it patentable. Like if I made a giant chair, I couldn't patent it except maybe as a design patent. So it's different. If you really, and you know, you want to make sure you're not copying anybody else, so you can do some research, and you can also get some inspiration. It's like, oh, that's a good idea. Maybe I can mix it in. You want to think about how many units you would need to sell to pay for a patent. So if you have someone saying, hey, I can write a patent for $12,000. Okay, how many units do you think you need to sell to pay for your patent? And also, how much money do you have to defend it? Because you have to pay for your own patent defense. So there's no patent police. So you would have to go to court. So it's really for people with big money. And there's provisional patents, so you could find out about it. It's good to educate yourself and then decide whether or not you want it or not. Again, not legal advice. A lot of times on Shark Tank they'll say, do you have a patent for this? Do you have a patent for this? If it's truly unique and you think it's really going to go big, or if you're doing something designed for a radar or something like that, yeah, you might want to get a patent. Trademarks are the same thing. You probably don't need a trademark. Nobody really cares. You just want to make sure you're not copying somebody else. And it's kind of fun to get a certificate. I did that, and you know, womp womp, there's mine, dead, canceled. I got a certificate, I got a stamp. It was a couple $100 to do this, and wasted a lot of time. So you can see, I filed it in 2008, got it in 2010, and it was finally canceled in 2016, and I got nothing out of it, but except for a certificate. So probably don't need it. So there's the numbers. I shared them before. This doesn't really affect much, except if I followed the advice that I was able to give you now, I could have saved about $6,000 starting up that I wasted on things I didn't need. So I encourage everybody to do this. You'll learn a lot. And thanks for watching. So next time we're going to have number 3, how the retail ecosystem works from the perspective of a small-time inventor. And I found it to be interesting. So.